In the 19th century, the ideology of a manifest destiny shaped America's westward expansion. Rooted in the belief that the United States was destined to span the continent, this conviction blended nationalism, religious zeal, and economic ambition. It inspired settlers, justified territorial acquisitions, and fueled the displacement of Native Americans. Manifest destiny became a rallying cry, transforming a young nation's ambitions into reality, and forever altering the landscape, culture, and identity of the United States. The ideology of manifest destiny. The concept of westward expansion in the 19th century United States was fundamentally driven by an ideology known as manifest destiny. Coined by journalist John L. O'Sullivan in 1845, this belief held that the U.S. was divinely ordained to expand its territory across the North American continent, from the Atlantic to the Pacific. It was not merely a political idea, but a deeply rooted cultural conviction. Manifest destiny was a blend of nationalism, religious fervor, and economic ambition. Americans believed it was their right and duty to spread democratic values, Protestant Christianity, and capitalist enterprise across the continent. This ideology was used to justify everything from the annexation of Texas to the war with Mexico, and even the displacement of Native American tribes. The Louisiana Purchase in 1803 under President Thomas Jefferson had already doubled the size of the U.S. It set the precedent for large-scale territorial acquisition. Lewis and Clark's expedition between 1804 and 1806 provided the young nation with its first glimpses of the vast western frontier, and reports of fertile land and abundant resources further fueled the desire to move westward. Political leaders, missionaries, and the press all played a role in promoting manifest destiny. Newspapers printed glowing accounts of the West, depicting it as a land of opportunity and freedom. Politicians argued for the strategic importance of extending U.S. territory to prevent European influence and to provide land for the growing population. Religious groups saw westward migration as a chance to spread Christian teachings among indigenous peoples. However, manifest destiny also had darker implications. It rationalized the forced removal of Native American tribes, such as in the Trail of Tears, 1830s, and later the numerous broken treaties and wars that followed. It marginalized Hispanic and indigenous populations in annexed territories, leading to cultural erasure and systemic discrimination. Despite these consequences, manifest destiny became a rallying cry for settlers, soldiers, and politicians alike. It encapsulated the ambitions of a nation on the rise and laid the ideological foundation for the next half-century of U.S. territorial expansion. As railroads, telegraphs, and settlement patterns developed, manifest destiny was no longer a concept, but a lived reality, physically shaping the American continent and psychologically defining its people. Life on the Oregon Trail. One of the most iconic elements of westward expansion is the Oregon Trail. Stretching over 2,000 miles from Independence, Missouri to the Willamette Valley in Oregon, the trail was a lifeline for over 400,000 emigrants between the 1830s and 1869. These pioneers were driven by a mix of economic hardship, religious freedom, and the hope of a better life in the fertile lands of the Pacific Northwest. The journey typically began in early spring to avoid harsh winter conditions in the Rocky Mountains. Families would travel in wagon trains, often consisting of dozens of wagons pulled by oxen or mules. The daily routine was grueling. Travelers rose before dawn, packed up camp, and walked beside their wagons for miles on end. Every member of the family had a role to play. Men hunted, women cooked and cared for children, and even young children helped gather firewood or tend livestock. Dangers were ever present. Disease was the leading cause of death. Cholera, dysentery, and smallpox spread rapidly among close-knit groups. Accidents with wagons, drownings during river crossings, and occasional conflicts with Native American tribes added to the perils. Though some tensions arose with indigenous groups, many tribes offered assistance and traded goods with emigrants. Despite the risks, the Oregon Trail symbolized hope and determination. Pioneers had to be self-reliant, often repairing their own wagons, hunting for food, and navigating through challenging terrain. Women played crucial roles as caretakers, cooks, and sometimes midwives during childbirths along the route. Spiritual gatherings, songs, and storytelling helped sustain morale and community. Landmarks like Chimney Rock, Fort Laramie, and the Blue Mountains became famous waypoints. These places offered both physical respite and emotional encouragement to the weary travelers. Some decided to settle at various points along the way, especially if they found fertile land or abundant water. By the time the Transcontinental Railroad was completed in 1869, the Oregon Trail had largely become obsolete. Yet its legacy lives on in American folklore, history, and education. It stands as a testament to the sacrifices and resilience of those who helped settle the American West, and continues to be a symbol of pioneering spirit and national ambition. The Mexican-American War and the Mexican Cession. The desire to expand westward inevitably brought the United States into conflict with neighboring Mexico. The Mexican-American War, 1846 to 1848, was a defining chapter in the nation's territorial growth and a direct result of manifest destiny. Tensions had been simmering since the 1836 Texas Revolution, when Texas declared independence from Mexico and later joined the United States in 1845. Mexico viewed this as an act of aggression, and disputes over the Texas-Mexico border further inflamed tensions. The U.S. claimed the Rio Grande as the boundary, while Mexico asserted the Nueces River further north as the legitimate border. President James K. Polk, a staunch believer in manifest destiny, saw war with Mexico as a means to acquire California and the Southwest. After a skirmish in disputed territory near the Rio Grande, the U.S. declared war. The conflict, though brief, was intense. U.S. forces under generals like Zachary Taylor and Winfield Scott quickly gained ground. Battles were fought from the Rio Grande Valley to Mexico City. U.S. forces even captured Mexico's capital, which pressured the Mexican government into surrender. The war concluded with the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo in 1848. The treaty had immense consequences. The U.S. gained over 500,000 square miles of territory in what became known as the Mexican Cession. This included present-day California, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, Utah, and parts of Colorado and Wyoming. While the war fulfilled expansionist goals, it also intensified domestic tensions. The addition of vast new territories reignited debates over the expansion of slavery, which would eventually contribute to the onset of the Civil War. The Wilmot Proviso, although unsuccessful, aimed to ban slavery in these new territories and highlighted the growing sectional divide. For Mexicans living in the ceded territories, the change in governance was abrupt and often traumatic. Although the treaty promised U.S. citizenship and protection of property rights, many faced discrimination, land seizures, and legal battles. Mexican culture and Spanish language persisted in many areas, contributing to the multicultural heritage of the American Southwest. The Mexican Cession marked one of the largest territorial acquisitions in U.S. history and completed the vision of a nation spanning from coast to coast. Yet, it also left scars and unresolved issues that echo into the present. The California Gold Rush. In 1848, just days before the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo was signed, gold was discovered at Sutter's Mill in Coloma, California. This discovery set off the California Gold Rush, a transformative event that brought hundreds of thousands of people from around the world to the American West. By 1849, news had spread globally. 49ers, as the gold seekers were known, arrived by land and sea. San Francisco's population exploded, and boomtowns sprang up overnight. People abandoned homes, jobs, and families in pursuit of quick fortune. The promise of gold was enough to transform California from a remote outpost into an economic powerhouse. Mining camps were rough, lawless, and dangerous. Prospectors worked long hours with picks, shovels, and pans, often for little reward. Violence, gambling, and disease were rampant. As surface gold became scarce, industrial methods like hydraulic mining were introduced, causing environmental degradation and displacing communities downstream. The gold rush accelerated California's path to statehood. By 1850, it had enough people and economic clout to join the Union. This rapid development further exacerbated tensions over slavery, as California entered as a free state under the Compromise of 1850, throwing off the balance between free and slave states. The demographic impact was immense. People from China, Latin America, Europe, and other parts of the U.S. converged on California. This cultural diversity, while enriching, also led to racial tensions and discriminatory laws, particularly against Chinese immigrants and native Californians. Anti-immigrant sentiment spurred legislative actions such as the foreign miners' tax. Though few struck it rich, the gold rush permanently changed the American economy and psyche. It demonstrated the power of opportunity to draw people westward and underscored the enduring allure of the American dream. It also highlighted the volatile mixture of hope, ambition, greed, and inequality that would characterize the development of the American West. And that's it. Thanks for watching.